everyone. Hello. So I hope you had a really nice lunch and you had time to relax a bit. Again, this is after the lunch. I see some of you are tired already, so please have some coffee if you need it, and then we can wake up and have a bit more of an interactive session. This session, we ask the presenters and all the speakers to keep your presentations short, to really try to focus and allow us time for the discussion. So we really have time for an interactive session afterwards. In addition, I have an announcement to make. We were supposed to have a very special high-level keynote speaker from the United Kingdom, and we had invited him specifically because in the 2016 UN e-government survey, which we'll hear about from my colleague here, the e-government survey had the United Kingdom as the #1 country. So we thought it would be great and most insightful to have the United Kingdom's key official on these topics come and speak to you. Sadly, there was an error with his flight booking, so he's arriving at 2:45, which is too late to give the keynote, obviously. So what we will do is move him to next morning, tomorrow morning, so that he can still talk about the issues of open government, which are also central to increasing accountability. We know that that helps to increase government transparency and accountability. There's knock-on effects, so that he's going to be able to talk about that tomorrow morning. So he will be our first keynote speaker tomorrow. So in order to be able to take part and listen to his insights and keynote speech, I really ask you tomorrow to please be on time. So that's my first announcement. My second announcement is that after this session, I'd like to remind you that we will be going to our groups in the afternoon. This room will be rearranged. So I'd like to ask you to please take your things after you leave, and then also please remember we have a special dinner today at 6:15. It will be in this room. It will be transformed into a dinner venue. And we will have a special cultural performance from Incheon Metropolitan City as well. So with these small housekeeping announcements, I'd like to note that our next panel is focusing on leveraging ICT and improving public services delivery and inclusion through innovation and ICTs. And we're going to really focus on the issues of how ICT can strengthen the inclusion of vulnerable groups. Who are the vulnerable groups? I think you know that in the United Nations process, in the development of the Sustainable Development Goals, there was a lot of inclusion of major groups. And the major groups are farmers, women, youth, and many others. And so that really focuses on including these vulnerable issues or vulnerability issues into the SDGs. So this panel will bring that in with some special cases. So with that, I'd like to announce our moderator for the panel, or the plenary. Our moderator is a special guest that we have invited from Singapore and GovTech. So Ms. Jennifer Tan, could I please ask you to take the stage? Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Tan. I'm from the Government Technology Agency of Singapore. My agency is responsible for implementing ICT across the public sector in Singapore. So we're responsible for the digital government, e-government, smart nation initiatives in Singapore. It gives me great pleasure to be with you here this morning. We have a very interesting panel set up, which starts with UN, DPAD, giving us an overview of the e-government survey 2018 that they are putting out next year. So I think that will be very interesting because they have included new elements in the e-government survey for 2018. So Kaping will come and tell us about that. And then we will have a few other panelists who will share with us different aspects of ICT implementation, in particular focusing on the vulnerable groups, because under the 2030 agenda, we really aim to leave no one behind. So with those very brief notes, can I invite Kaping from UNPADM to brief us now?
Okay, good afternoon. So when we talk about the e-government, UN had a benchmark. We call it the UN e-government survey. And also actually this UN e-government survey will start from 2002. And also for the first 3 years, it's an annual publication. Then starting from 2006, now we're starting every 2 years. So now the 2018 survey it's kind of the 10th edition of the UN e-government survey. So we use that kind of benchmark for global e-government development. And also actually the main theme of the 2018 e-government survey is about how the e-government can support the transformation toward sustainable and resilient societies. And also you may know that the main theme for the 2018 High-Level Political Forum is also about the building a sustainable and resilient society. So the main overarching theme for the 2018 survey is how to building the resilience and how to support the government to responding to different shocks and disasters. Now, so the guiding principles for e-government survey is kind of how to strengthen effective governance. And also according to the SEPA report of the 2017, the SEPA meeting, we have some one background table about how to define the effectiveness of the governance. So basically we have 3 dimensions. I also underline those kind of key kind of things that are linked to the effective governance. So first one dimension about effectiveness, and second one about inclusion, and the third dimension of effective governance is about accountability. So about effectiveness, basically we will measure how the government can better deliver the services to the public. The second one about inclusion, we mentioned about how the information accessibility, so whether the other lines of classes in the society, they have equal opportunities for the access to the information. And also about the participation and the engagement, you may know that we have the so-called e-participation index to measure to what extent the public can be engaged and be informed, and also involve, their comments and also the views can be reflected in the final decision process. And also about accountability, we also have an open government. And also e-government can be a good enabler for sustainable development both on the international level and also national level. So at the international level is that the e-government can be a very useful enabling tool for advancing the 2030 agenda. And also for the World Society of Information Society, World Forum on Information Society, we also have a specific action line, which the C7 is on e-government. And also e-government can also help the governments to advance the domestic development goals. Yeah. And also the e-government survey, some basic idea is that we are guided by the general principles. You know, that just I said that for this year is how to support the transformation towards the resilience and sustainability of society. And also we have this kind of so-called 4 stages, although it's going to leave it outdated. Yeah. And also every year we decide the new theme, we update the themes. And also through this we do some policy analysis to summarize the main development trends of e-government. And also the e-government has been developed for 16 years, and also we have this kind of so-called HDI, very famous HDI. And also this HDI is a composite index. We have 3 subcomponents. So these 3 subcomponents online service index. So it will derive from the independent questionnaire. The questionnaire every 2 years it get updated. So it means that every 2 years we raise the bar of the measurement. So basically every year we update or give a new question. About 2/3 of the questionnaire are either new questions or update or upgrade questions. Only like a 1/3 question remain the same to maintain some consistency. And also for the telecommunication infrastructure index, we also going through some evolution in line with the technological development trends. And also about human capital index as well, we also make some updates every 2 or 3 years, every 2 or 4 years. They have equal weights to generate the overall index. And also we have a so-called Z-score process to ensure that these kind of 3 components have an actual, real kind of impact on the overall index. For this kind of 3 indexes, you can refer to our previous surveys. There's an annex about methodology to generate the composite index. And also for the for producing the e-government survey, we're trying to, this kind of process is kind of engaged and also open and also participatory process. And for the 2016 survey, we have a regional consultation, and also we have online consultation as well for those member states who cannot participate in the process. And also for the 2018 survey, we're also going through this process. And also in May this year, the DPLM organized the EGM meet, convoked a number of experts to have this kind of e-government expert group meeting to discuss about review the methodology and also how to link the survey SDGs and also how to update the survey to make sure that its methodology come along with the technology trends and also the development needs of the governments. And also we also focus on some emerging trends, especially artificial intelligence, IoT, and also cloud-based architectures, big data and analytics, especially predictive analytics for government to take some preemptive actions to avoid the disaster to involve in a big scale. And also some smart platforms, also use some social media especially, that impact on the engagement in a government decision process. And also the digital government framework, it's kind of including the main themes that e-government survey trying to capture, which are those kind of essential services that the government delivers to the public. So basically are health, education, social protection, employment, environment protection, and public security. These are those kind of basic and essential services that relate to the lives of the public. And also we have this kind of main themes. The things that we are trying to capture, the open data, e-participation, mobile government, digital device, and usage. The usage side have a more and more importance in our survey. Because in the previous surveys, we basically capture from supply side, I mean, how the government supply to the citizens, but how the citizens use the public services is also very important. It's kind of different dimension. Because without active usage of the public service, then there's no such kind of value for the government to invest to improve the e-government services. So for the usage, we are trying to, encourage the member states to use the user satisfaction survey or different tools to measure the usage statistics. Yeah. And also for the data framework, we also have some internal consultation, yeah. And also for the external, we also work together with other kind of some consultant company or some other international organizations like UNESCO, ITU. Yeah. And also for the main the index, we also trying to pilot some studies in some countries, not all the countries. Yeah. We are working together with the UN University because in many countries the government service delivery is conducted on the local level, not on the national level. For them in China, because many kind of big cities like Shanghai and Beijing, they also did a very good public service delivery, although the national level is not that good. Yeah. So we are trying to do some pilot study. It's not included, it will not affect the overall ranking, but we're just doing some pilot study, I mean, as a preparation for the future. If you want to include it, bring into this dimension to the overall dimension, how should we do that? And also for the online service index, again, we are designing this kind of online service questionnaire. And also to ensure that the questionnaire can capture the right information to the right URL to find the information. So we distribute this member states questionnaire, we distribute to other countries to asking for their right information, right URLs, because many countries, they're updating their URLs frequently. So we want to make sure that we are accessing the right, we are evaluating the right UILs for the from countries. And also we also want to have a better understanding of the latest developments of the e-governance strategy and what's the upgrades or transformation in the e-governance strategy of member states. They are trying to adapt to the new 2030 agenda. And also, we are also trying to use some third-party indicators to supplement our online service index. Yeah. But overall, this kind of online service questionnaire that developed in a wide consultation, also with the member states and with the feedback from countries and also with the consultants with other international organizations. The question cover such kind of domains I already already mentioned. This kind of key kind of main policy agenda items for the government, also as the most essential services the government should deliver to the public. And also all this, the themes that are covered by the 2018 survey, including the following. Open data is same as before. We already have it. E-participation, nothing new. Mobile government is also has been reflected in the previous 3 editions. Yeah? Integration is also, we have been assessing this dimension about the whole of government approach. Yeah. This kind of digital divide is mainly we talk about how to improve the multi-service channel delivery. And also about user-centric privacy. This one becomes more and more important actually. And also security is about how to ensure that the resilience of ICT infrastructure itself. Usage, I already mentioned that usage, we encourage member states to use some tools to measure usage statistics and also some user satisfaction survey to make sure that the feedback of the users can be duly reflected in designing of the structure and also the category of services that government should improve. Because government has to prioritize their services. It cannot improve all the services at one time. So you have to listen to the public to see the users' demands. And also last one is about local, how to capture local dimension. As I said that now we have just piloted some studies in some countries, not all the countries. We also need to decide what the criteria to select those kind of cities. And also for the third-party analysis, yeah, we use sometimes we use some independent third-party measurements to do some automated analysis, automatic testing as well. Yeah. So 2018 sort of outline. This outline is you can find this kind of information from the PPN website. It's all there, and also all that chapter by chapter. Then what the main contains is also you can find in the website. And after my last presentation, I will show that. So part 1 is about basically about digital government to help build the sustainability and resilience, and how to link to the 2013 agenda. And also, as I said, the theme is in tandem with the 2018 high-level political forum. And then part 2 is about the global trends of economic development. And also we have some focus on those kind of small island development states and also the LDCs to give particular attention to the economic development in these kind of countries in special situations. And the part 3 is about those kind of new technologies that are affecting our economic development. And also in the website, we are called for the contributions. Yeah, so the deadline is December this month actually. So the experts and the member states that can contribute either by submitting a policy brief or they can submit a contribution to one of the chapters. Yeah. So you can find all the information on the 2018 survey from this URL. Thank you.
Thanks, Kaping. Our next speaker, very interestingly, she had some etiquette problems, I understand. So she will be presenting to us via video. So it's Ms. Anita Gurumukte, who's Executive Director, IT for Change, e-Government for Women's Empowerment. I understand that her presentation is about one specific vulnerable group, which is poor women, and some of the measures that they did to kind of reach out to them. So,
presentation on designing e-government ecosystems as in women matter. This presentation is based on a research that IT for Change, my organization, undertook for UNPOG and UNESCAP on developing a conceptual framework on gender in e-government. The starting point of the research was that e-government is not a mere addition of technology into public administration systems. Rather, it is a new paradigm of public administration which can be quite game-changing for women. We looked at the three critical constituents of e-government: e-service delivery, citizen uptake, and the connectivity architecture, and focused on the norms, rules, and practices of the e-government ecosystem. One of the things that this research did was to actually look at the barriers and challenges that stand in the way of women's access to connectivity. What is evident is that the market is not automatically bridging the gender digital divide, contrary to early expectations. In fact, in 48 poorest countries of the world, 90% of the population continue to be unconnected. And a large proportion of this population comprise women. Also, the access divide reflects existing gender divides in education and employment. Another research undertaken by the Women's Rights Online Network found that 97% of female internet users on social media have still not been able to expand their connections online or enhance their social capital online. Only 21% of those connected were able to search for critical information on things like health or legal rights. New forms of rights violations online has proven to be an important policy area that is emergent. However, many countries in the developing world are yet to develop the right policy regimes to be able to address online violence against women. So what does it take to build gender-responsive e-government systems? I'd like to look at two instances which tell us certain important insights. The first is about the Kudumbashree program of the government of Kerala. Kerala is a state in southern India. The Rural Development Ministry of the state government of Kerala has built a very, very significant program for women, which is called Kudumbashree, and here self-help groups of women come together in different neighborhoods and work closely with local government bodies. Kudumbashree's digital strategies have included gender help desks, which allow women to access online forms and online entitlements through a moderator who is available in each of the local government offices. The program has also been running online discussions which women can participate in even if they are not familiar with digital gadgets and how to operate the online portal, because the help desk will enable them to participate in agenda setting processes in these online discussions. Kerala also became the first Indian state to declare the internet as a basic right this year. This opportunity has been seized by the Kudumbashree program, which has introduced new innovations like a digital newsletter, launched a new mobile app for the women's groups. What this initiative tells us is public interest intermediation can encourage women in the grassroots to uptake or to access e-services. A policy commitment to universalizing public access can go a long way in enabling women to come online. And digital innovation is a moving target, and one has to be really agile to be able to be responsive to women's needs. The second instance is about an experiment called Making Women's Voices and Votes Count. This initiative was supported by the UN Women in certain states in India. The digital strategies of this project included creation of icons that would enable non-literate women to be able to come to a public access point and look for public information. If a woman is an artisan, if she is from the indigenous community that makes handicrafts, or if it's a woman farmer, different icons would take the women to different information bits which will enable them to apply for schemes and entitlements as per their needs. Local language knowledge commons or videos in the local dialect were created so that women would be able to understand what their rights are vis-a-vis local governments. The initiative also put in place voice messaging to reach information to women in the local dialect. Thus, it was able to create a new discourse on gender and local governance. Cutting-edge innovations like GIS-enabled participatory local data collection, which was then tabulated and presented to the local government in order for women to be able to share their requirements on local infrastructure. Things like street lights, water points, all these things were able to be integrated into this initiative. The most important contribution, I think, of this initiative is to show how citizenship literacy and digital literacy can actually go together. Online and offline strategies were combined and local content was created through a very effective local partnership between women's groups and local governance institutions. Based on the research that we have conducted, it's possible now to be able to see how the e-government ecosystem needs certain conditions for it to be responsive to women's empowerment. First is a non-negotiable commitment to gender mainstreaming, effective interministerial coordination, which should preferably be led by the Women's Ministry, citizen charters in respect of digitalized governance and what women can expect out of digitalized governance, a balance between technical and standardized processes on the one side and flexible human mediation on the other. An important aspect which is to create the checks and balances in making partnerships work, including very clear contracts. An effective data governance framework which is supported by legal backing. Frameworks so that institutions not only encourage women to take part and articulate their needs and priorities, but also frameworks that enable institutions to listen, to be accountable. And finally, connectivity that's not just infrastructure, but connectivity that comes bundled with certain incentives, with local content, so that a demand can be generated among women citizens. Based on this research, we have built a policy toolkit for training institutions in the region. This is a public resource that's available on the link, and this contains 5 modules. An introductory module on gender governance and e-government, 3 modules, one each on e-services, e-participation and connectivity, and a 5th module on evaluations, assessments of whether programs for e-government are indeed effective and responsive for women's empowerment. I think it would be useful to adapt and customize these modules through efforts that apex institutions, training institutions in the different countries of the region can undertake, so that officials and bureaucrats from different ministries, not just Ministry of IT or Ministry of Electronics, but Ministry of Women, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Commerce and Rural Development, all these ministries which have several programs for women through their e-government initiatives, can avail of. The idea is that this toolkit can enable program design to be gender responsive from the get-go so that gender perspectives are not integrated post facto but become a way by which e-government is designed a priori. Thank you very much.
Okay, I would like to invite our next presenter, who is Dr. Zheng Lei from Fudan University. He's going to share with us about the implementation of e-government in China.
Okay, good afternoon. So this afternoon I would like to share some cases from China related to this topic about improving public service delivery and promoting inclusion through innovation ICTs. So first I would like to share a case from Shanghai. So Shanghai government has a portal like many cities has, and on this portal they provide some services so government can, or citizens can come to this portal to apply for some like business, apply for passport and something. But in order to include also elderly people, and also have one function which is you can turn the color into this like a highlight mode, black and white, so that those elderly people can see it more clearly, and also you can make those font like characters bigger, and also you can have turn on those some lines in order to let those elderly people to see it more clearly. So that's one thing that government did to include those elderly people into this ICT portal. And also they provide some services through mobile devices. Because more and more people start to use mobile devices to get access to the internet. And so if just put services on the PC, computers is not enough. So for example, they have this service, you can see the real-time location of a bus on this service. So you can see that there's 2 stops from your location, or 3 stops, so you don't have to wait too long. And that they provide it. And then this is a case in Wuhan. So if you have a car accident, one thing is you can call 110. That's like 911 to call policeman. But if it's not a very serious accident, you don't have to call the policeman and wait for the policeman. You can, both sides can take pictures of the collision and from 3 directions, then send it to this WeChat account. Then the policeman will check those photos, then give you like a certificate so that you can bring those certificates to the insurance company to get reimbursement. And also in Wuhan, they provide this service. If you got a ticket, you don't get it on a paper. If you linked your car plate number with this WeChat account, you can receive this ticket through your social media. WeChat is a social media platform in China. Then you can also pay this ticket through WeChat. So in 1 minute, you can finish the process. You don't have to go to the policeman department to fill out some forms and to submit the money to have it handled. So this is, again, the cases from China. This is a WeChat account of the municipal government of Shanghai. So on this WeChat account, they provide all kinds of services. And actually, those services are from different departments. But instead of downloading different apps or following different WeChats, you can just go to this one stop and can get access to different services provided by different government agencies. And they also launched these apps called Shanghai Citizens Cloud. You can just log in with one national ID, then log in one time, then can access to all services. So other than providing the service, those services, government also try to solve some problems for those poor people to relieve a poverty issue. And with big data, they start to do things like they call precise poverty relief. So first, in the past, it's difficult to identify those really poor people. People just, some people, if they want to get funding from government, they can submit an application with some forms and some certificates. But sometimes they may not be the real poor person. They just know this policy and they just want to get some money. The government also cannot tell whether they are real or not. So the past process is that you submit the application, and government put it on website. There are other people to say whether he is or not. But if those other people are also his friends or relatives and neighbors, they won't see anything. So government just give them those funds. Those really poor people don't even know about this news. So now they start to identify the really poor people through big data. Data from different agencies, from the bank. So they do those cross-checking to identify those really poor people. For example, I have one case from our university. The information center in our university start to find out from this university card record, because students use that record in university restaurants for their lunch or dinner. They can find out some students are really poor because they buy very cheap food and drinks, and they can find out. Then they give them, then the university give them some allowance into their account, so they can receive some money, but they didn't even apply. And the university did something like that. And government's doing something similar in those villages. Then once they identify those people are really poor people, they can start to allocate those money to them directly and easily. And so the government accounts are linked directly with the citizens' bank account. In the past, they have to, central government give those money to provincial government give them to city government or county government. And finally, when those citizens receive money, those middle levels may take some money as either because of corruption or either because of their administrative cost, because they also work on it, so they need to take some money to pay for their stuff. But right now, those money can directly go to those village people. And also, because all the records are in the system, so the middle level couldn't really take any of them, and those money can directly reach those village people that can prevent from corruption in the middle level. So that's one thing that some places start to do it, and other provinces in China are learning from it. So in the end, usually in my class, I will ask my students, because most of my students are public servants from different government departments, so we call them MPA students, Master of Public Administration. And I will ask them questions: which channel or which platform is the most advantageous? So in the past, we provide services through service desk, service counter. Then we move them online on PC, on desktop. Then right now we start to move them to mobile devices, through social media, through apps. So which way is the most advanced? Usually in my class, some of my students will say that, of course, mobile or social media is the most advanced. But then I will say, no, it really depends. Depends who you are serving, and when and where they need a service, and what kind of problem they have. And then you start to think about how to provide services to them, and through what kind of channels. Then in the end, finally, you also need to check whether there is really outcomes that can show the performance. And no matter it's provided online or offline, we should also combine them together, integrate them together. Sometimes it can be provided online. So for me, sometimes, for example, if I want to make a reservation before I visit government, I make a reservation online. Then I go to the service desk to talk to those public servants, ask some questions. Then after I come back, I can still go online to check the progress and get the certificates online or pay online. So it really depends on what kind of service that I like. And some public servants in China told me that for those elderly people, they actually like desktop services. They want to see a real person. They don't trust those desktop or online, because if they don't see a person, they just feel not comfortable, and they like to go. So government should still provide services through desktop if citizens need. Okay, I think I've finished. So that's my topic, and I would like to have more discussion in the panel.
Okay, I'd like to invite our next presenter, who will share with us the experience in Korea in terms of e-government and reaching vulnerable groups. So can I invite Dr. Cho Chung-moon, who is from the National Information Society Agency of Korea.
Good afternoon. I am Chung Moon-jo, and Well, I will talk 3 points. One is about the future of e-government, which we are pursuing as a future e-government service model. And another 2 issues are about what we did in the early stage of e-government and information society building, which might be helpful for the still in beginning stage of information society. And let me first talk about the new trend of e-government. Well, as everybody knows that we are in the final stage of information society. Somebody thought we are entering new society. Somebody called it smart society. Somebody called fourth industrial revolution, etc. But well, everybody believes we are entering the new era. Well, what is the new era? Well, we think that in the new era, what we have to emphasize is openness and sharing and integration and collaboration, etc. Well, in early stage information society, we have pursued efficiency and productivity. But efficiency and productivity is not enough for providing better services. So what we are now have to do is beyond efficiency and productivity. We have to pursue collaboration, openness, and sharing, etc. Well, this is a few example of the comparison between what we have done in information society and new smart societies. So in public services, what we are doing is we are utilizing not only resource owned by public sector, we are utilizing all resources which is owned by private sector and citizens. And therefore, what government have to do is government have to provide a platform on which all stakeholders, including private and citizen, can participate and can share the information among themselves to provide better services. But IT technology is the best tool which enabling the kind of corporations. Without IT technology, the kind of enormous corporation would be impossible. Therefore, we believe ICT is essential, which is enabling to do the kind of corporations. So, well, for the purpose, what government do is we have to open our data to the citizens, let them able to analyze, let them able to utilize the data. So we do not to think for the open our data, and Korea are willing to open our data. This is it's about globally, open innovation is widely recognized and pursued. So in early stage, it's closed innovation. So innovation among us, but the second stage is open innovation. But nowadays, innovation is for society at all, not only for us. But so that is the innovation network. And so right now we are pursuing the open innovation version 2, which is the win more and win more. Previously we pursued the win, but what we are pursuing now is that the win more. So the all sector should be entered by the cooperation and innovation. That is the innovation 2. And this is the future e-government vision, and from now on I will talk a little bit about the importance of awareness and capacity in e-government. Well, everybody mentioned about the balance between demand side and supply side in achieving the e-government. And so for the demand side, we need the literacy and awareness and capacity. Therefore, we have to think about that. We have to transform non-users into users. Then we have to ask who is non-users and why they don't use. and what we have to do, and how we can transform non-users into users. That is what we have to think in delivering, in making policies. Well, so I think that the education and capacity and awareness is the key tool for breaking the virtual circle between no infrastructure and no content and no users. And well, this is what we have done in early stage of information society. We asked it, what is the reason not to use internet at the time? Well, the major reasons not use is the level of capacity and do not want it. So we have to tackle, we have to challenge this issue in achieving the real information society. Well, so we can categorize the non-users into type 1, 2, and type 2, type 3, 4, 5. So each type needs different strategy for overcoming their problems. And well, so my suggestion is that the ICT awareness should be part of awareness building for better life and better society, since ICT is a tool for the better life and better societies. Well, fortunately in Korea, we have the kind of culture which emphasizes learning and changing and future education, etc. Upon that, we do the social movement campaign in early stage, 1960 and 70, and also in 1990, we do strong the national slogan, which make Korea the first most competitive nation in the world. So what I'm saying is, ICT in Korea, ICT is not just ICT. ICT is part of the national slogan to realize the better society. So I think that works in the Korean cases. And well, let me talk a little bit about the Korean cases in early stages. Well, this is about the IT capacity building program. From 2000 to 2002, we targeted 10 million. 10 million is quarter of total population. So it is a very grand project initiated by the president. And well, if you look at the participants, well, all groups, farmers, even prison inmates, people with disability are covered by this project. And all ministries participate. You can name any ministries. So all ministries was coordinated by president office, and we utilize not only public resources, also utilize private resources. And so these are the numbers, which well each semester we collected the outcome. So it was really the grand project at the time. But I think that due to the kind of grand project, we are really jumped in this period. The internet usage rate has really jumped due to the kind of grand project for improving the capacity. And well, this is also, well, we emphasize not only the basic capacity, we also emphasize the professional capacity by the national level. And this is another project for the enabling access center. For the person who cannot access at home, they need community access center, like cyber cafe. It was a public cyber cafe. We set the goal to establish at least one public cyber cafe each community. So that was the national level project, covered the entire country. And it is another project for the information village. It is about the packaging program, which is not only offering the training and access or the computer education, it also offers the real income generating activity. Well, we developed a portal. Through the portal, each village can sell their own local products. So I believe that this kind of the holistic approach, packaging approach is a real work for that they're using the ICT technology. So this is a package. It includes 7 elements in this project. Well, this is all I want to talk to the
Thank you, Dr. Cho. That was a very interesting presentation. Next, I would like to invite Dawn to come and present to us. Dawn is the Executive Director for checkmyschool.org.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay. I think I will be deviating a bit from the normal course, or the regular course that my co-presenters took in the presentations now. And that's because I will not be strictly talking about ICT or e-government. If computers and ICT have their own language, or they have to follow the computer language, I think public service delivery has its own particular language. And that we must be able to understand and speak that language for it to be inclusive. I think that's going to be the main message of my presentation here. And I'll be using this test case from the Philippines. We call this project Check My School, a participatory monitoring initiative to check the condition of our public schools in the Philippines. So why did we start this kind of initiative? Okay, do you see this? This is a dilapidated classroom. Until now, we have many of this, not only in the far-flung villages, but also in our capital, in NCR, in Manila. Do you see this? Worn-out textbooks. I was just talking to our volunteers a few days ago, and they told me, oh, you should be thankful you have worn-out textbooks. In our school, you don't have books. Do you also experience these kinds of problems in your countries? I don't know. This is toilet in one of our public schools. And look at this. This is a classroom that doubles as a variety store. Now, if you're a parent, would you be sending your kids to these kinds of schools? Probably not. But for those who are already in these public schools, what could they do? Now, our organization is into social accountability. And of course, we believe that those who have less in life should at least have more from government. And that's why we make sure that they can demand accountability from government for these public services. So why did we start Check My School? Oh, but before this, I just have to say something. If you already have these issues, of course you will want to feedback, you will have to send a comment, but how do you do that? In the Philippines, the education sector is a little bit, not a little bit, but still highly centralized. You get information, you have to really go through the bureaucracy, you have to send feedback, it will go through district, division, region, national, and it will probably take a year or longer before you get the response. And the people, their participation is also needed, but their idea of participation in schools would consist of donating. It's not much of demanding accountability. And those are some of the reasons why we started Check My School. We started in 2010, and our idea then was to put up a website that will contain information about the education sectors. You can see there. So we collected various information, enrollment, teachers, toilets, computers, budget, even test scores, etc. Our theory of change was that if you put out all this information online, it will encourage, inspire people to download them, and move them to act, move them to demand, for better services. But we were wrong. We were wrong in that assumption. That did not happen. When we put out the website and all, and we started talking to people, they're using it, they asked, what do we do with the information? Can we eat the information? And so we had to redesign. After assessments, we had to redesign. We received the idea that there should be feedback, and feedback should be prioritized. And so we redesigned the website so that we can highlight feedback, and it became like Facebook. But we got two feedback, two comments. One, many of the feedback that we received were really negative, and the principals reacted negatively. It's like they are being antagonized, that the schools are being put in a bad light. And secondly, there's this other question again, what happens after feedback? What do we do with the feedback? So it's the same question. And so finally, and this is now what the website of Check My School looks like. If you want to visit it, checkmyschool.org. We transitioned from data to issues.
Because we realize people do not see or are not much interested in data, but they are moved by issues. They participate because they have issues. They don't have textbooks, they don't have classrooms, they don't have computers and all that. So from data, we shifted to, or we gave priority to the issues that we can get from the people. And from feedback, we made sure that we have stories of change, we have resolutions to be proud of and to report that something had happened. So how does CMS, or how does the Check My School work? Number one, we identify issues, and these issues really have to come from the stakeholders themselves. What do the students, the parents, the teachers, and the community members think about the services being delivered for the public school? We have to engage people because we need to know if these issues that we collect are really from concerned people and from those who are affected. And then we make sure that we still access data because we need to substantiate issues. We need to make sure that they are really real and they are evidence-based. And there should be feedback, meaning that the issues or the findings that we have should be brought to what we call the properly mandated agencies. Because you could be giving feedback, you could be talking and maybe even protesting, but if you're talking to the wrong office, then it will amount to nothing. So the feedback has to make sure that it's a feedback to the right authority. And of course, we have to resolve issues. We need to make sure that we have resolutions, that the issues are acknowledged, that the issues would receive commitment from the government, and that there has to be real improvement. And finally, we want to include here telling the story. Storytelling is important, as you will see later. And I have a few examples here. From this initiative, we have covered 893 schools in the Philippines out of the 47,000. So it's still a very, very few. And we have a 20% resolution rate from the last cycle that we had. 555 issues resolved out of some 3,000. And here are some examples. Look at this. This is from somewhere in the north in the Philippines. For 59 years, the school doesn't have a water supply. Not 10, not 20, but 59 years. Check My School entered the picture, raised the issue to the local government, and there you go. They were provided with a water line, just for maybe $200. Just because we set the feedback. Look at this, and we have several cases of this in the Philippines. Students had to swim the river to get to the school using banana stems. Again, Check My School raised the issue. It's not within the mandate of the Department of Education, so we had to raise it again to the local government. The local government agreed, they provided boats. This is in Mindanao. For those who are familiar with the Philippines, Mindanao is prone to rebellion or other conflict-related issues. And this school was a victim of that kind of circumstance because some rebels barged into the school, held the teachers and the students hostage, and some students, of course, became afraid to go back to school, and so the enrollment dropped. Again, Check My School raised this issue to the Department of Education, to the local government. The mayor responded and provided police, deployed police to patrol the area. And sooner, the students started coming back because they already feel secure. This is a school in an island in the Philippines, and we have many islands, as you know. We have 7,000 islands. And in many cases, these schools in islands are not given proper attention. And an initiative like Check My School really could bring to the attention of authorities their predicament. And this is one story among many. And so you can see many stories in our website. Now this is just a simple case, but nevertheless illustrative of something. As you can see, this school has a bent flagpole. So even a simple case like this we raise, and after feedback, now it's standing tall. It could sound and look trivial, but this reinforces the idea that if you do something, if you participate, something could happen, something could change. Now, these are all improvement in services. I do not want to forget about these people who actually got involved in monitoring and demanding accountability, and that there is also change happening in them. She is a volunteer mom who volunteered in this initiative. She's actually a single mom, and just satisfied in taking care of the house, of the home. But after volunteering, realized that she can still do something, and now she's enrolled in development studies. She is Jundelin, and she has fibrous dysplasia. It's kind of deformity. So she was shy, unconfident, but volunteering, made her talk to the principal, present findings, and eventually follow up certain, recommendations, and that really made her confident. A rediscovery of herself and of her self-esteem. This is Jo Marie, considered a black sheep in the family. His parents could not convince him to go to school. But after volunteering, witnessing what's happening in the public schools, started, rediscovering what it really means to be in the education sector. And now he is in third year college. So I just want to emphasize in this slide that changes should also take place not only in the actual services, but in the people who are involved, and that you cannot pursue service delivery and accountability for service delivery without these people being empowered. And so these are the lessons. That I would like to emphasize. Number one, our lesson in changing the design of our website. Tools must adjust to people, and not the other way around. If we see that the tools are not serving our purpose, we must, by all means, adjust and make sure that we are not losing sight of the real purpose. Second, we must aspire to close the accountability loop. There has to be resolution. Otherwise, there will be frustration. We're asking people to volunteer. We're asking community members to come forward and help. But if nothing's happening, then it will create a disappointment. And so we must really aspire that things get resolved no matter how difficult. Next, people must understand how the bureaucracy works. As I said, it's a complex bureaucracy, and we do not just pass on blame or accountability. We must make sure that we know what we're talking about, and we should be there. As civil society, for example, we should be there to assist and handle our community members so that they are aware and able to understand how the bureaucracy is functioning. Fourth, storytelling demystifies governance and accountability issues. Many times we speak of jargons, sophisticated terminologies, and we are up here, and the people down there who should be receiving the services don't actually understand us. But stories appeal to them, and they should be able to tell their own stories. And that's how we validate that we are actually resonating with them, that we have relevance to them. And so storytelling really helps. It humanizes SDGs. It humanizes development work. Finally, the culture of accountability, if we want it to thrive, should happen through an empowered community. And that's why we should not forget it. We should not forget about it. And empowerment happens in real people. It is not happening in concepts, but in real people. And we should also really listen to them, how that is becoming a reality. And in terms of challenges, we have spoken of really, wonderful things, but we are still struggling with these challenges. Number one, how do we really institutionalize this kind of work? I am coming from the civil society, and my experience is that whenever we have to introduce a monitoring initiative, we have to ask permission from the government, we have to beg for their cooperation, and it should not be like that. I mean, it's our right, it's part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that we, as people, have right to participate in the government decision making. So why do we have to ask permission so that we can demand accountability? There has to be some kind of policy to really make sure that government entertains, recognizes, and formalizes this kind of initiative, this kind of effort, meaning the participation of people in monitoring government programs. Secondly, the sustainability of cost financing. And I was really listening intently to Ms. Doreen as she was talking about impact investing. This kind of work is not free. It has costs, as everything has costs. And we really need to still understand how we can be able to sustain this kind of effort, how we can make government, private sector, and the development institutions really appreciate the benefit and the return of investment for this kind of work, because it really requires investments from these various stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. May I invite the other panelists to come on stage and the rest of us to get ready with some questions. I think we have about 10 to 10 minutes because we overran a little bit. Okay, so our panelists are here. Maybe I can kick off with a question for any of the panelists here about which relates back to what we discussed yesterday in the various discussions about mindsets of public sector, public agency, public civil servants. E-government is something which will actually also threaten their livelihoods. And how? What do you think are some of the ways we can overcome the civil service resistance to, say, digital services, digital government? How can we force them to think out of the box in terms of some initiatives that we can do, either in terms of service delivery or in terms of outreach to vulnerable groups? May I invite the panel to comment? Mindset of civil servants.
Okay. So I think because I'm educating those public servants, so one thing I do is I usually in my class, in my e-government class, I will give them some exercise. So ask them to use ICT to do some innovation in delivering public service. So usually they will present in this way. I would like to do this thing, and for what kind of application, what kind of technology. So then I will correct them, ask them to do it in reverse way. So I will ask them to first think about who you are serving and why they need your service, and in what situation. Then you start to think about what solution I can provide to you. If you just think about in your office what kind of things I should do with those money, then do something. And maybe nobody would ever use them. Many actually government services provided online. Citizens doesn't even know they don't need it. So I think that's one thing I'm looking at. Thank you.
Well, let me talk a little bit about Korean experiences, since I'm Korean. Well, in Korea, the government officials are recruited by exam, which means that even the regime change, the high level, while the top level politicians are changing, but the senior level, director general and manager doesn't change. Therefore, we can keep the kind of the consistency. Well, IT policy, what the result outcome of IT policy appear 5-10 years later, not appear right now. Therefore, it requires a long-term commitment. But fortunately in Korea, the officials are recruited by exam, therefore they have the kind of the continuity, professionalism. Therefore, that even the regime changing, we can keep the continuity. That is one of the advantages in Korea. And another point is that in Korea, we generated the informatization fund. So all the license fee and spectrum fee was generated as the informatization fund. Therefore, good money, everybody paying your mobile phone, the expenses. All the mobile payments are reinvested for the IT sector. Since, in Korea, the informatization fund was generated by the license fee and spectrum fee and contribution by the operators, and that was reinvested into the IT sector. So that was one of the good points in early stage for the infrastructure investment.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. So I have 3 points to make. Yeah. So first one is that because in the past we emphasized more on the citizen-centric services. We always think that the government their service should be designed oriented towards the needs of the citizens. But now, I mean, as with the social media, the individuals become more empowered, so they have a better means to get interact with the government. So now, more and more, the government itself should become a platform, should allow the individuals to have a chance to engage and to co-design the services that can create some value added. Yeah. Secondly, while we are now employing new technologies to improve the services, make the speedy, more faster, more convenient, more expedient. On the other hand, we should also think about this kind of data governance issue. For example, the example that given by Professor Chen Lei is about that social chat, WeChat, which have more than like monthly active users, like more than 800 million people. And who is holding the ownership of this kind of data? It's kind of private company. And that company and also some major holders are Japanese company maybe, or even other kind of stakeholders. Who is having ownership and who is protecting privacy of individuals? So that's also a very big issue, that how to protect privacy and even, we can escalate some level of national security. Yeah. So the second issue I want to take. The third issue is that while we are utilizing more technology and rely on so-called cloud-based architecture, so it also, on our hand, it also increased the vulnerability to the system. So that's why the 2018 survey, that one important dimension is how to increase the resilience of ICT infrastructure itself. So I think it's very important that that we should take into consideration, especially in this kind of emergencies, how to ensure that with some contingent plan, and how to ensure the system can be still operational, can still provide the service to the general public. So I visited Fiji in 3 years ago. Actually, their data center was built in a high mountain, and also the joint chief of the defense is kind of at the outside of that data center. It means that because these kind of small countries, they are very so susceptible to this kind of typhoon, to the flood. So they build up the data center in a higher place, and also it's heavily guarded by the military. So this is also a kind of very important issue, that how to ensure that the security and also resilience of the infrastructure can be maintained to ensure that we also have some contingent plan. The Waseda University also have the e-government survey, and one of the very important dimensions of that survey is about the resilience and the contingency of the system. Yeah. Thank you.
Jennifer? Let me add quickly, because this question reminded me of a conversation with my Cambodian friend yesterday. Any change, of course, would be greeted with skepticism and resistance, and it's necessary to have a change management going with that program. We need to give our public servants time to adjust, learning curve, and to be aware of both the benefits, the values, as well as the risks. I think that would be crucial in any program that we implement in the government.
Thank you, panelists. Well, maybe I'll just share my own thoughts from GovTech Singapore. I think when we implement technology, it's important for us not to implement technologies for its own sake. Meaning, oh, this is so like fun, well, this is the newest thing, let's do it. But actually going back to demand, which is capacity of the citizens for to use the technology, and also is there a need? So we always say, start with the problem statement. What is the problem that you're trying to fix for the citizen? And then what are the best ways to do it? And technology may be one. And it need not be the most expensive, but like monitoring tools, for example, is that what you need? And then the technology should serve the needs. So starting with the problem statement is really very important. And I take Keping's point about ensuring resilience and contingency, because we cannot over-rely on all this digital government, and then one day the network is down or something, and then we cannot reach the government. So that's very important. Thank you very much. Can I invite some questions from the participants?
Thank you very much. My name is Mohsen. I'm from QDI School. My question is to Mr. Don about his project. It's actually a very excellent case, and I was really interested. Like, it is very interesting to know that how you are doing this kind of like social sensitization for the accountability of public servant. But at the same time, actually, I'm afraid that it would create a culture of like just blaming the government. I am not sure about the mechanism because you explain it, but maybe because of the time constraints. Can you please like give some more examples or how you actually sensitize the community itself? Because some of the problems maybe the community should also solve by themselves. Because in the future, when we talk about adaptive governance, it means that the people and the government should work together. It's not just one channel that they should just raise the voice against the public officials for their accountability. But at the same time, I think they should also work to resolve their issues by themselves. So do you have any plan or do you work on that issue as well? Thank you.
Well, one crucial thing, one important thing that we always mention or we always tell our volunteers, community members who participate in this kind of initiative is that motivation is important. Motivation is integral. Are you joining because you're motivated to just criticize or even bring down the government? That should not be the motivation. The motivation should be to help improve the services. And crucial here is our framework for engagement, and we call it constructive engagement. And basically it's dialogue and problem solving. It's not talking and talking and talking. It's also not confrontation, it's not adversarial, but it's really evidence-based and result-oriented. And as I said, why are you doing this? What's your motivation? And so it's part of our orientation for them, just to make sure that we are in the same page as we do this. As I said, this is social accountability, and we are distinguishing it a bit from anti-corruption, although they are not completely separated. They are maybe cousins, but anti-corruption is more confrontational, punishment-oriented, or maybe protest-oriented. Social accountability is more constructive engagement, although it doesn't rule out the possibility of the use of anti-corruption. I hope it answered your question.
Yes, hello. I have a question for the speaker from Shanghai and from Korea. How do you see the relationship between e-government and open government? And I think this affects kind of the relationship between citizen and governments, and also relates to Keeping's comment about the governance of data.
Okay, so in a narrow sense, we will say that e-government is about government itself using ICT to provide services to improve its efficiency and effectiveness. And in a broad sense, e-government can include internal operation, public services, e-participation. So it really depends on. But open government usually means accountability, open more government information to make it more transparent. But we also have the other term called open data. I think you mentioned. Open data is that government open data to allow citizens to use those data to create, to make some public value. So that's somehow related to open government, but not the same. So that's from my understanding. Okay, thank you.
Well, I think that the e-government and open government is just a matter of terminology. I think that if you understand e-government very broadly, e-government can include even open government, since the principle of e-government is to deliver better service by ICT technology. Therefore, in the broad definition of e-government, it may include the open government. But in Korea, what we want to do is we want to adopting the concept of open government is to let citizens, let public officials, let them to understand our new function, new picture of e-government. Well, if I keep saying e-government continuously, they may think about the old version of e-government. But we want to emphasize a new version of e-government. Therefore, for that kind of purpose, we emphasize the open government, which are enabling better service by cooperation between citizen and public. And when you citizen participate, crucial thing is the public sector have to release their information to the citizen. Otherwise, it will be impossible. Therefore, we call it the open government. I think that open government is just one of the new version, new element, new features of the whole history of e-government. That's my view.
Thank you. I think we overshot our time. So maybe if you can, maybe you can approach the panelists afterwards, but I think we are all running out of time. So if I could ask you all to join me in thanking them for the excellent presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Session 2 group, Session 1, the improved access to the public service through National ID Management System. Right, I'm Hyun-Jun Kim. I'm the director of the International Corporation under the Ministry of Interior and Safety. It's my great pleasure, and I'm the moderator of the session on this important topic. Right, just to brief talk about this session, the objective of the session is to discuss the importance of the National ID Management System for providing improved access to the public services and achieving the SDGs. We aim to do this by sharing experience of different countries and challenges they face with the National ID Management System. Also, as mentioned in the session note, the National ID Management System is important because it ensures that every individual is counted and therefore has full access to the public services. In recognition of this importance, the SDG target 16.9 specifically calls for providing legal identity for all, including birth registration. This target can be a basis for achieving other SDGs as well. In this regard, I think this group session is very important in that, through presentation, Q&As, and table discussion. It will discuss in the best practices and challenges of ID management system. Overall, the session will begin with the speaker's presentation and statement. Up to 10 minutes, remember, 10 minutes per speaker. As a moderator, I kindly ask the presenter that your presentation is not over 10 minutes. This is ensure that we allocate sufficient time for the group discussion at the later part of this session. After the presentation of each speaker, participants can ask some questions to the speaker. For the questions and intervention, also please make sure it is concise. Each is not exceed 2 minutes. Then after the brief Q&A session, for all 3 speakers, there will be a table dialogue. It's quite important part of the group discussion. Lastly, the reporting back and wrapped up by the team leaders. That means you have to select one of your team members as a team leader. And then the team leader will be done, the reporting back and wrap up by the team leaders will be done before finishing this group session. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our speakers in this session. The first speaker is Ms. Jennifer Tan. She's here. And she's the director of the Government Technology Agency, Singapore. Then Dr. Sang-baek Kang, the director of the Department of Global Cooperation, Korea Local Information Research and Development Institute, or CLIF, will be speaking. Lastly, not least, Mr. Bhagawan Arya, the director of Civil Registration Department of the Nepal Ministry of Local Development and General Affairs. Then, let's first invite Ms. Jennifer Tan to the front. She will be speaking about the ID management system in Singapore. Please welcome her with a big applause.
Hi everyone. Okay, I'll just go straight into my presentation, which is actually more on our national digital ID that we have. Okay, so but just some background. In Singapore, national identity, everyone has a national identity, it's registered. We have a card that tells, that identifies as a citizen or permanent resident in Singapore. And it's this is a unique identifier, which is by the number, and there's a fingerprint and all that. So that's our national identity. And this is given to citizens at birth, so if you're born there, you have that. And then when the citizen gets older, they get issued that identity card. And then residents who are work with legal work status, they will also be given a card. So this is the identity management, the physical one. So I want to talk about our digital identity, because other than physical identity, for digital government services, you actually need a means to identify your citizen online, because he can't come with his card and do online. Right? So the digital identity is very important to us. And if I can just, does it have a pointer? It's just the right. Okay. So if I talk about, first we have what we call SingPass, which was our national digital identity since 2003. And we use one-factor authentication, which is the password, to authenticate that resident. So each person with that physical ID, you can will get a digital ID, which allows you to transact online with the government. And that's authenticated, so it's password-based. Since 2003 we have that. And then in 2015, we enhanced our digital ID authentication to be two-factor based. Two-factor means is two ways. You have to have two means of proving yourself. One is your password, and then the other one is through OTP from your mobile phone will give you another code. So it's two means to really prove that that's the person. And then this is the way where they will do things like file their taxes, etc. Things, transaction with the government. Okay. Then, extending beyond that, we have also in 2016 opened up access to verified info, so that citizens only need to provide that information once. And this is what we call My Info from April 2016. I'll talk a bit more about that later. And then also, because we serve not just people, but companies, so the government's customers are not just citizens, but also businesses. We also have a corporate identity for businesses to transact with the government. So we call this corporate pass. And our latest thing that we are implementing is our national digital identity, which is not just allowing citizens to transact with the government, but citizens to transact among themselves, with each other, and with businesses. So if you remember in the plenary just now, Kerping talked about government as a platform. And that's about opening up data so that businesses can also use information and data available in the government for the economy to co-create. This is the National Digital ID framework that we have, is an example of government as a platform. Okay, so yeah, this is what I talked about SingPass. This is your National Digital ID, and so this is integrated into all the government websites where you need to transact sensitive information. You will log in with your pass and then your password, and then once you get past this, then you will do the transaction in the government. And we know that that's who you are. You have authenticated yourself. Then My Info, these are all the data elements in My Info. Basically, when you transact with the government, we have a lot of your info, right? Like your name, your birth date, where you live, all that data which you have provided to the government department. And actually, every time you transact, you don't want to, every time you go to one department, you have to put in all that stuff again. Same info, you fill in the form. So in this, what we call My Info, we allow various data that you have at the government to be shared in the government department, so that you don't have to refill all that data. And this is consent-based. Okay, so you have to agree to it. So it's not that we are using our data and passing it around. Actually, you agree to it. And so it's presently available at various sorts of government services, like for example, education, employment, getting married, having kids. In Singapore, we have baby bonus for people to have kids because we want to encourage people to have kids. So there's a lot of paperwork that you have to do. So this kind of smooths the paperwork because we can pull your data with your consent and you don't have to fill in a lot of forms. Okay? And then things like aging, right? And then we will just tell us once, so we call it tell us once. So you only have to tell one time, you don't have to fill in many forms. And we roll out to all 110 digital services from 40 agencies next year. But other than government, that you and the government, you can also agree to release your data to someone else, like a bank. So for example, if you open a bank account or you apply for a credit card, you also have to fill in a lot of forms, right? So this is also consent-based, so you agree that you will allow your info from what we call my info to go out to the bank. So you don't have to fill in the form. So this increases convenience for the citizens, and also it increases productivity for the bank as well, and it reduces the customer acquisition costs, because also the bank knows that this is correct information, it came from the government. Okay, but to address issues of privacy, just be assured this is consent-based. So you have to give the agreement that you were doing the application and you wanted to extend it. Okay. So this is opening up to the private sector. This is us extending what we have, data that we have, outward of just government to the private sector. Okay, and this is another new development that we just had. So other than just we giving to banks, we also open up our access of our APIs, our source code, and our technical documentation for our MyInfo to the private sector, so that private companies, private developers, and partners, they can also use the data, build that into their applications. So it extends beyond banks and everything else. This is another way of government as a platform, and there's co-creation because it enables new services to be built outside. Okay. Then Corporate Plus is, as I said just now, is the company's digital identity with the government. So companies also transact a lot with the government, including taxes, licenses, permits, grants. They also actually face a lot of overheads and paperwork and all that, which is actually not very productive. So a corporate pass allows us to also identify the company with the government, and they can use that corporate identity to transact with us. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about what I talked about just now, which is the national digital identity, and why we think it's an important part of the digital infrastructure for the nation. So when we talk about digitalization, the fourth industrial revolution, I mean, people see that a lot of things will be taking place in a digital way, and how do then people identify themselves in that digital world, right? And so having a digital identity that people can use, not just with the government, but with each other, will be a key part of the digital infrastructure. And to have a good national digital identity, first, security is very important, okay? We need to make sure that that person is the right person. So if you say you are who you are, the company and other people must have the assurance that you are really who you say you are, so that they can authenticate. And we think that actually the government is the best person to, the best organization, or in the best position to provide that assurance to everyone else. So that's why we are doing this. And then it's much more robust because you don't have to have that physical card. If you have something that's digital, you can transact in the digital world. So economic value, we see that if we have this, it will be increased ease and reduced cost of customer acquisition. So there will be a lot of economic activities that can take place in the digital world, because in the infrastructure-wise, you already know that everybody is identified, right? And it allows for paperless, presence-less productivity, and there will be new business models that can be created from new online transactions. And then, of course, back to why are we doing it? certainly we think citizen convenience. I mean, it has to benefit the citizens, and for the citizen, it will allow them seamless linkage across domains and services. Private sector, public sector, doesn't matter, they can use one ID, and there will be convenience to them in terms of remote transactions. Okay, so going forward, we are looking at, we will operate it in tandem with the physical ID, and then it will be for our Singapore citizens and permanent residents. Yeah, we want it to be open and pervasive. So it will be open architecture. We talked about openness just now, open government. This is also open. Companies and all can use this as part of their service offerings and enhance their business model. Okay, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So the topic I want to share today is the ICT platform for multi-cloud service delivery. And we share from our 4-year efforts of the government to secure the platform, to make the platform happen. So we start from year 2013. That is the big reform of the government, that the two big government agencies, Ministry of Post and Telecom and National Institute of ICT Development Authority, are merged together. So after merge, the National ICT Development Authority becomes the General Department of ICT and become the Telecom Institute of Post, National Institute of Post, Telecom and ICT. So one become the executive, one become the National Institute. So what we have did from the reforms. From the reforms, before year 2013, Cambodia, since we survived from the killing field 1979, we don't have law to manage the telecom sectors. So after reform, by year 2014, we have made the telecom laws. And by year 2016, we have made the ICT development policy, TICT development policy. It means telecom, ICT development policy. The policy to manage the telecom sector and ICT sector together. So it combined in one policy. So we put a clear vision in the telecom and ICT development policy is toward ICT connectedness and readiness. So connected in terms of infrastructure, readiness in terms of people, in terms of our government officer capacity, whether they have enough capacity or not. So that's why when we reform the structure, we have National Institute and we have the General Department of ICT play the role in deployment of projects. And we have set the very clear indicator like improve and expand telecom infrastructure and usage by 2020. This is the indicator you can see in the slide we will share. And we also have the indicator for development ICT human capacity by 2020. So percentage of central government officers having basic ICT skill, 95% by 2020. Percentage of local government officers having basic ICT skill, 75% by 2020. 100% students finish high school. So our National Institute of Post and Telecommunication, we also working closely with Ministry of Education to make a curriculum on the high school program to make sure that all the students that finish the high school have the basic skill 100% by 2020. And percentage of ICT skill workforce of total skill workforce 15%. Objective number 3 of our policy, diversity ICT industry and promote the ICT application. So percentage of telecom and ICT companies that formally register with MPDC, 65%. So we also the government also just make a sub-degree that require all ICT vendors have to register with PDC, free to register. So why need to register? We need to know the statistic, how many company now, ICT company now are operating in Cambodia. You too will have to make a good policy to support them. So we have to register, require them to register. And percentage of central and local government officers using government email system, 100% by 2020. This is the basic skill that government officials must ready to use. Available on government institute website 100% by 2020.
You have 5 minutes. Yes.
So I move to the important topic.
We focus on the how the strategy or plan orient towards the improved service delivery to the vulnerable groups. Yeah, it will be better. Thank you.
So with the existing platform, we just finished drafting the e-government strategic plan with this vision, improving livelihoods through the better digital service. That we have 3 strategic tracks. The first is connect with people and public policy and decision. The second, co-creation with people and provide quality information and digital service. And the third is increase government efficiency. We have set up the clear outcome. The first is better serve and connect with people and business. Second, improve efficiency in government administration through utilize common digital infrastructure, platform, service, and training. So here I just saw the success use case of number 2, how the government have utilized the common platform. So this we have set also the 5-year action plan, and the first priority now is national portal platform and enterprise architectures. So to support other government agencies, we also provide a common platform to ensure that it is secure, free hosting, free website development platform that all government agencies can use it for free. And we also announce to all government and all development partners like ADB, UNDP, something like that. If you provide the technical assistance in terms of ICT development, you don't care about the keep system sustainable. You just provide the system development cost. When implementation, we will support. The other thing is we share all the existing like the systems that already integrated to the government agency can access. This is the platform that I want to share, the ID4 platform. It is the vulnerable group. Before we create a platform, it is fragmented, no standardization, poverty definition, differentiated criteria. So the government want to identify who is the poor group. They spend a lot of money to make the survey. And also the organization to support the agriculture development, the organization to support the health development, the organization to support the education development. Everybody is surveyed. So survey at the same time, but we cannot, all that survey data is fragmented, not shared. So we spend a lot of budget for survey. To solve this challenge, we do the nationwide standardized multi-dimensional poverty identification mechanism. Transparent identification and data collection process, accurate, up-to-date, and high-quality information shareable to all service providers. So the government also make a sub-degree. You have to make a poor identification and make it in a central database and share to all stakeholders can access. So here, after this is the process that we are doing. So the data, this is the process of data collection transparency. We train to the villager focal point, and then after the villager focal point are trained, they identify the pool. Who is the pool? And they have the survey question, and they rate the level of pools, level 1, level 2, something like that. So and then all the survey data. We also do the commune official and district council to check whether he's really the poor person. So after all the authority checks, all the data are entry into the central system. And then all the service that we can provide through the web service as well. So all the stakeholders, they can access that data. So example, the stakeholder want to have the education. So they can target based on that data, and they can execute their program. No need to survey anymore. So this is the impact after we deploy the system. So 151 organizations, they don't need to survey. They just access to the data, and the organization like USD, AEF, they donate more than 10 million to have the poverty group based on the data, and also 800K equity card are provided to the citizen after we identify. And the government still do this every 3 years. Every 3 years we survey again, and then we can keep the history record. Oh, the last 3 years you are poor after have programs, something like that. We can stick the progressing of the whole group. And we also get the recognition from the international like Bhutan, Iran, Bangladesh, Malawi. They also come to learn from this model as well. Can you click on the links? You can show the data now by region, by province, by district about it. Yes, you can click on one. But here we can show, because privacy, we can show only the statistics. So if the organization or development partner, they want to see the data, they have to register, and we have to load them the asset level. So this is the level of tool, level 1, level 2, something like that. So this is the example of multi-channel by utilizing the ICT platform to provide all stakeholders to access. And this channel, this data, we also working with the Ministry of Interior to integrate this data that all the vulnerable group can access to all government service for free. Okay, so can you back to PowerPoint? I want to show another case study. Portal platform, multi-port service channel. So, as I mentioned, based on telecom ICT policy and e-government development strategic plan 5 years, national portal is the most priority, is the top priority. And this is the platform that we are designing. It has 3 components. The first is digital identity. Because when we move on the digital, we must make identities. The second is portal, and the third is get. So before have a platform, example like Ministry of Commerce, they provide the online for business registration. So before have the platform, the citizen have to sign up. Before access the service, the citizen have to sign up. Ministry of Public Transport also provide the online, they have to sign up. Ministry of Tax, they also provide the online tax. They have to sign up. So many sign up, many ID, many digital ID. The citizen very headache to access. So this is what we do in the platform, is we provide only a single platform that only one sign up and access to all government service. And this is the website platform that we have only one platform, and then we provide the administration, the administrator, administrator to each government agency. So they can manage, they can transform, they can post all information under the same platform. And the other is the platform that we allow the government officer, especially the CIO from each government agency, to transform their service. This is the visa. They can start, okay, the first step, the citizen have to fill it this form, and then have to go through the process and then approve process and then they can get a service, something like that. And this is the platform that we going to deploy early next year. So all ministry are combined into the same, only one single platform. And citizens sign up only one time can access all government service at one place. We also can click the link if you want to see it, but I think we have no time. So after we deploy this platform, it has a dramatically changed. Before, when the citizen want to get a service, they have to go to counter.
Sorry, Mr. Cameron, you really need to wrap up.
Yes, but now
You have 20 minutes.
they just sign up. They just sign up, and then they can submit the process through the platform, and then they can receive the certificate, the results through the counter, any counter, through the postal office, or through the government agency. Right now also, the citizen can pay tax by example like bank. Before they have go to the tax office, but now because we provide the platform to the bank as an agency, so any bank, they go to the bank, they can pay the tax, something like that. So I want to end my, because of the time, I want to finish, and maybe you can have a question next year. Thank you so much. Thank you.
By the way, Vodafone is actually one of our partners in Aflatun International. Many of the telcos actually come to us because the telco market is the child after all, you know, the end of the day. So that's one of the areas that we encourage our partners to look into. Now, again, for those of you who were here yesterday, I'm going to give you a slight, who were not here yesterday, sorry, give you a slight overview about Aflatun International and then move on to the issues that we want to highlight. Is there a clicker?
No.
Now, Aflatun International, created in 1991, started in India, but the founder, Jeru Belamoria, ended up meeting a Dutchman and moving to Holland and marrying him and settling down there and started the foundation in Holland. And from there it has grown from 10 countries in 2005 and now we have 109. We currently target children between 3 and 18, but having said that, we've moved beyond that to university level students also. So youth market is also being looked at because at the end of the day, the funding game also now is starting to enter the CSR market to some degree. So words like employability comes into the market when you're looking for money. So that needs to be looked at too. We are an activity-based curriculum, child-centered, very much facilitation and not teaching. And I think perhaps of all the things that Aflatun offers, we offer that more than anything else, specifically more pertinent in the developing countries where it can add value to look towards Industry 4.0, the idea of moving towards creativity, critical thinking. You know, these are the things that we want to look at, and we've by default already, it's part of our syllabus, part of our methodology. Right, so these are where we are. Again, Asia, India, China are the two biggest organizations that contribute to our numbers. We have a target to reach 15 million by 2020. We are at 5.1 at this point in time. Pakistan is very dominant, and our sleeping giant is Indonesia. Yeah. So you can see 109 countries. Of this 109, 30 of these countries we are already going into the curriculum directly. So we have a sister organization called Child Youth Finance International, founded by our founder too. And the logic process is that we at Aflatun provide the methodology, the system to enter the schools with the children. So it actually is a direct application, while Sci-Fi deals with the government with the idea of why create separate entities? Why don't we just include financial inclusion into the national curriculum wherever possible? Saving money, saving time. Yeah. So as of 2016, 4.5 million children, 55% are saving money already. Sylvia, who is one of our partners, is going to be presenting after this. So I'll leave her to do some clearer examples of a very fine working example in the Philippines. Yeah? At this point, 26 national integrations, including Philippines, 25,000 30,000 teachers trained already. And we are, because a lot of it also, the model that we used to have before was very naive. We basically funded the program ourselves. We encouraged partners to be part of our network, and we got them funding. I warned them 4 years ago the model is going to crash, and sure enough, now we have changed that model. We are no more free. We now actually charge a fee to be a network member, though the fee is minimal compared to the impact. The fee is minimal compared to the impact. Yeah. So these are the things we look at: savings, planning, budgeting, self-confidence, and social attitudes. And this is what differs us from the other programs. There are programs in Asia, I don't know how many of you are familiar with, one of the biggest ones that charge almost $300 US per weekend. It's called the Money Tree. You know, it exists in Southeast Asia. They actually even happen in Philippines also. But again, they target the higher income. But the difference between us and the other programs is it's not completely financial. We also have a social element. We believe a fool and his money is soon parted. So we want to develop the child, and we develop self-confidence, who you are, why you are, and then you move forward. So that's something that we offer very much. And that is the differentiator of Aflatun's methodologies compared to anyone. Social attitude. Yeah? So these are the 5 chapters that we have. Whether you're in kindergarten, primary school, or high school, these are the basic 5 chapters we have. Self-exploration. Who are you? Why do you exist? Why? Sort of the why questions that children sort of ask, and we move towards that. Right? Then we talk about rights and responsibilities. It's like Spider-Man. With every great power comes a responsibility. You have a right, so you have a responsibility. So we try and use language that the child identifies with. So again, like I was explaining yesterday, everything is contextualized. We don't tell a partner in Malawi how to do it. It's not how we tell Philippines how to do it. The cultural nuances makes the value of the program. So it is very easy to adapt and localize. Then we come into what is called what the banks like. Now I'm by profession a CSR consultant. So the banks like this part of it, savings and spending. Right? So they want to see that part of it. Then we have the next one, budgeting and planning. And of course, the sexiest part of our 5 modules is social and financial enterprise. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone thinks they can be an entrepreneur. Everyone tries to be an entrepreneur, but whether they have the skills and the mindset is something, 2 different things. Just having the ability to start a business doesn't mean you can maintain and succeed in that business. And this is where we differ, and we insist on the syllabus being holistic to develop the child and the confidence in what they can and will do later on. Right? So these are our syllabus now. We have a whole range of it, but these are the top 5 that we have. Afla Tot, as in toddlers, so it's for kindergarten. Aflatun, which what we started with, primary kids. We start from the age of 6, 7, we go up to 14. Then we have non-formal education. Some of us talked about being banked. Now, I live in Malaysia, and we have 7 million migrant workers. We have almost 1 million refugees. And these are areas that nobody talks about. These people don't even have statehood. What more, how can they even have an identity card to be banked? Malaysia is not a signatory to the, the refugee. So a refugee with a UNHCR card is not recognized legally anyway. So we are looking at other ways of doing it. My organization, the Make It Right movement, in fact, is at this point in time working with different bodies in the EU and the UNHCR to open what will be hopefully the world's first open university for refugees in the coming 2 years. So we are looking at those kind of things, non-formal education and life skills, the peacekeeping module, specifically developed for Syria, but can be used in Mindanao and the other areas that we are looking at also. Conflict areas where children don't have an opportunity to go to school because of the fact that it's not safe. So therefore, the minimum we offer this child is life skills for them to have some value and worth in themselves while looking, it's kind of weird. I don't know how many of you have been to areas that are extremely poor, like where I work in Sabah, which is in the part, the poorest state in Malaysia. We have portions of the population that earn hardly anything, but many of them have a smartphone. How is this even possible? I sometimes wonder, but they do. Right? I work with this group of people called Bajau Laut, which translates into English as sea gypsies. They actually get land sick when they come on land. They live on sea primarily. And there are 60,000 of them that travel between Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia. And none of these 3 countries recognize their statehood. So where do they go? How do they access medical, education, medical, you name it. And the last thing on their mind will be banking and financial inclusion. So this is where our module tends to look at the bigger picture, the social picture. Because as much as it's all very romantic that we want to make everyone bankable, the bottom line is, when I don't have food today, why am I talking about a bank? And that's the issue, right? Sadly. So we have to look at those kind of things. Aflateen is the program that we are now developing to call Aflateen Plus that will include the youth market. That means they're looking 18 to 25. Yeah. So these are the syllabus that we have. All of them have been developed to the point that we actually have a teaching curriculum and a curriculum for the student. So it's 2 different, a teacher's manual has been developed and we have a teacher training manual that's already out. The life skills currently is the only one which was developed last year and launched in November last year. We don't have a manual yet, but that's very quick. It's already in the pipeline. Okay. So what are the drivers? The Brookings Institute identified our program as one of the top in the world when it comes to financial inclusion. And what were the drivers of it? It's a social franchise approach, especially now that we are charging a fee, even more a social franchise approach. The partners are the ones that scale, we don't scale. Without the partners, Aflatoon is nothing. Right? That's very clear. The Secretariat presently now has moved into a dynamic role of supporting the organizations and not so much focused on, hey, let me give you money anymore, because this doesn't work. Because we have partners that write to us. Some of the partners took on Aflatoon not because they believed in it, but because, well, this is one way to get another bit of funding, so I can last for another 3 years. And that is a funding game that we want to avoid. We're not interested in that because you have to believe in the program. And I mean, the honest truth is, if we teach your teachers today how to include the syllabus, why do you need any more funding as far as the syllabus is concerned? Of course, you have to have funding to survive, but with or without, we add value to who you are. So why should it that every year we pay you to take our syllabus and help you? I mean, it's just a model that doesn't sustain in a common sense point of view, neither in a business point of view. And we have to break this mentality about funding. It has to stop somewhere. When is it that you are self-reliant and able to go forward? So this is what we're looking for as far as Aflatoon is concerned. Yeah. Now, the other driver that we look at, the freedom to be flexible. Once you have the syllabus, it's up to you to design and decide how you go with it. The basic, to put it very simply, and of course our MOU with every partner is a bit different, but the basic order is that as long as you acknowledge us, you don't stray from what we are trying to do, the 5 principles that we have, you're open to adapt it as and what you want. I mean, you will see that what Sylvia does in Philippines is quite different than what is done in Bangladesh and what is done in India and what is done in Malaysia. Ironically, Malaysia, despite I'm the one who brought Aflatoon to Malaysia, we only work in the non-formal sector, which I run an organization in Sabah, in Borneo. We have 40,000 children who are primarily Indonesian but don't all necessarily have papers. So they're not allowed to go to Malaysian schools, so we have 147 schools teaching these kids. And all our fees are paid for by the oil palm plantations, because if they don't pay us the fees, they cannot sell the palm oil, because the palm oil is considered uncertified palm oil. So there is a business model to always look into. CSR is something that has been avoided, I think, by many people, and always the focus has been on international funding. Sustainability must include CSR. Yeah. We make sure that the core principles are upheld. There's almost no country that we work with that disagrees with what are the principles we are looking at. By the way, just to let you know, for the big market that's missing is the Middle East, and we are now looking at creating a Sharia-compliant financial inclusion model. Because again, as much as the golden rule of religion overlaps one and another, but still the Islamic model requires, because of the term Sharia, that you need to find something. So we're looking into that at the moment. All our methodologies are child-centered, and I think for me, as an educator and someone who has taught in over 22 countries, this is something that I'm particularly proud and push Aflatoon, because we take away the whole top-down model. It's actually extremely child-centric. The child is allowed to say anything. The child is encouraged to speak within, of course, to the point that it does not disrupt the class. But the child is meant to be the center of the education, and that's what it's about. This is actually finally looking towards Industry 4.0. Yeah? and of course adaptation of local talent. And we have what we call an Afla kit. Everything that we have is called Afla, right? So by the way, the word Aflatun is a Sanskrit word. It means comet, a comet. And the children themselves had a competition and chose the name Aflatun. It wasn't chosen by us, right? So it was that. So everything is called Afla. We have the next thing that we're going to do is called Afla Ventures. And that's going to be an online system of selling products. After you have the financial, you see, the worst thing you can do is inspire a child, and then the child comes to a dead end. So the child creates a product and wants to sell, and then he has nowhere to sell the product. So we want to create Afla Ventures. So Malaysia will be taking the lead in that. We are creating a web online portal to sell the products, where the person I work with is a millionaire and he's agreed to absorb all the cost of the program. So initially, the initial cost he will absorb, but then ultimately within 2 years it must stand on its own 2 feet, right? So this is what we're looking at. So how are we looking at, I think, of moving forward? I mean, our partnership, I think, has survived not only because our founder was visionary in herself, but also the partners in themselves are visionary people, like people from BRAC, NATCO, you know, they see the value, and the thing that we like with our more prominent partners is they realize that sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And forever waiting, putting your hand out and expecting a funder to give you money is not going to work forever. It isn't, right? We work with governments, so like I said, almost 30 countries now have agreed to introduce, I mean, the whole purpose of an NGO ultimately is to be useless. That you've done your work and you stop, you know. And we are hoping that in time to come that all the governments end up taking Aflatun as part of its curriculum. But you know the problem with education, right? Everyone, it's the country's national pride. And trying to tell somebody that I have a curriculum that is of value to you can be difficult because you deal with all these egos of people who have spent their lifetime getting a PhD to develop a syllabus, and then here we come with something else. So we have to be really careful with that, right? We work with civil society. We are expanding our partnership. We expect to, in Asia alone, we expect to increase by about 30 new NGOs joining us next year. And what we are doing is we've realized that the model of just providing financial literacy is not enough. We are now doing capacity building. So we offer trainings on branding, governance, how to write project proposals to earn money. These are the things that we are doing. So because we have the technical skills for it, we've survived the last 10 years doing it and we are good at it, so we want to share it with our partners. But this is a fee charging option that we have. Teacher training institutes, funders and banks. Some of the banks we work with, Bank of America, Barclays, HSBC. In fact, next year, one of our biggest partners is in China. It's called Be Better. And Be Better, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the whole idea of setting up an NGO in China. It's quite difficult. And there are actually very few NGOs that are completely NGOs. Most of them are government NGOs. And an NGO in its true sense is very rare. And this Be Better is one of them. And basically because he's one of the rare ones, people are actually coming to him and saying, can I give you money? So the good news is that for our partners, is next year we're going to speak to the banks to do a program in Philippines, India, Malaysia, Indonesia, based on our strength in China, right? So it's all about relationship building and the continuous support of the Secretariat in Amsterdam. Next year we also plan to use the fact that we have the Queen of Holland as our patron, and we are connected to the Global Compact also, so try and do more with that. In fact, Aflatun is a curriculum endorsed by UNICEF. But again, therein lies the weakness. UNICEF Malaysia doesn't do anything about it, despite me being a board member. You know what I mean? There is no connectivity in the whole sense with all the UN bodies. When UNICEF New York endorses it, I don't understand why all the other, why should it be that I need to convince you when headquarters has already said yes, right? So we have to convince on a country-to-country model, and that is a little bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest. So the other thing that's going well is our research and evidence. We have a very strong monitoring and evaluation team. Our curriculum is updated every 2 to 3 years. We actually pay a curriculum specialist to do it, but we've reached a level now that we have enough internal partners that can do it. So we cover the partner's cost instead of hiring an outsider to do it anymore, right? So like I said, we are regularly, referred to. And I'm not sure who did this survey, but there was a survey done, and Aflatun and Child Finance International were the top 20 NGOs in the world. We were number 16 and 18. But I'm not really sure who did the survey, but we were, right? So covered everything. I hope that's enough. The slides will be made available to you if it's of any value, and of course you can ask me further questions if you're interested in finding out more. Yeah, thank you very much.